seconds away on Studio 5. The doctor is in.
The average American consumes about 3 pounds of sugar in a week, 13 pounds in a month, and 156, 155 pounds in the course of a year.
Ian Smith has a prescription to shed the sugar and the pounds. And then
tragedies are commonplace.
questioning God's plan on the big screen. Plus,
what was life like in Turkey?
The music story of a young man who fled Iran at age 4 and learned English from hip-hop music. All in Studio 5, starting now. And welcome to Studio 5. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. Let's not waste a minute and dive right in. At number 5.
At the same time, the fierce army of the Philistines.
Kathy Lee Gifford lends her voice and her heart to a family musical experience. The Little Giant is based on the biblical story of David and Goliath.
The real message of this was that we all have our stones. The one thing that God has given us to do that no one else can do but you.
The project is also inspired by a trip to Israel with her late husband, Frank Gifford.
So grab your stone and throw it well. You got your very own story to tell.
At number 4.
Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli made a pilgrimage to the traditional site of Jesus' baptism, praying for peace as he stood on the edge of the River Jordan.
In this place, there are the roots of my faith, and so for this reason, it's a very special place.
And that's a look at the first 2 in the countdown, which brings us to our very first guest. He is a doctor, a television host, a father, a husband, and even a twin. You've probably heard of him, Dr. Ian Smith, and he's got the recipe to help you shred the sugar. He is this week's Studio 5 interview. So your latest book is called Blast the Sugar Out, and you provide a 5-week plan of action for people to, you say, decrease, but not wipe out.
Not wipe out.
Why?
Because sugar is important. Actually, glucose or sugar is the #1 source of fuel for your brain. It's important for your muscles. We actually need sugar. And so we're not trying to get rid of sugar. We're trying to eliminate or reduce some of these bad sugars, these added or refined sugars that are everywhere. You know, the average American consumes about 3 pounds of sugar in a week, 13 pounds in a month, and 156, 155 pounds in the course of a year. So with this plan, it's a 5-week plan. People lose up to 20 pounds in 5 weeks. They drop their blood sugars by 30%. And a lot of people are cutting their sugar addiction that most of us actually have.
Wow. I think of sugar as almost a drug, it seems.
It is.
Is there, I guess, then a safe level in terms of, because we know that what you just quoted is too much sugar for us to consume. Is there a safe?
Well, there is a safe. I mean, according to the American Heart Association, the average American who is a woman should consume no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugars per day.
Okay.
And for men, it's 9 teaspoons per day. These are added sugars. So we're not talking about sugars that you find in fruits and vegetables and milk. We're talking about processed sugars. Unfortunately, most Americans are double or triple that in the course of a day. Yeah, so, you know, do you need to get all the way down to 6 teaspoons for women and 9 for men? You probably don't need to get that low, but we gotta do much better than we're doing now.
School us on what the danger is of consuming sugar the way we do.
Well, you know, sugar is important because sugar provides us with energy.
Right.
But what happens is if we're not using the energy fast enough, sugar, like, you know, Newton's law, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, so it's got to go somewhere.
Right.
And we typically store it as fat. So the danger of sugar is we increase our obesity. By increasing your obesity, you end up hurting your insulin hormone, and you end up, you know, gaining even more weight. The other part of it, it can affect your eyes, it can affect your kidneys, your blood vessels, your heart. So too much sugar in your blood can lead to all types of physiological changes that can be very deleterious to your health.
Now, I know that in your book you talk about decreasing, and initially hearing that, some people may be concerned, well, will I feel a crash? Because sometimes in our own bodies, we feel sort of
That's right.
a crash as
That's right.
the sugar goes.
Well, the reason why I made the plan 5 weeks is because I want to slowly wean you off of sugar,
Okay.
versus having you, dramatically just all of a sudden stop sugar, cold turkey. That's when you get the crash. So people who stop sugar cold turkey, they have what's called rebound withdrawal. They have headaches, they have gastrointestinal disease, they feel lethargic, they don't feel like themselves. In my program, so far, no one's really experienced that because they're still having sugar, and I'm slowly taking them down week by week by week. By the end of 5 weeks, yes, they're consuming a lot less sugar, but they got to that end in a slow, gradual manner rather than something that is extremely drastic and fast.
Nice. What are the results you're seeing? Because I know you've got a community of people working together on this.
It's been amazing. I mean, the average weight loss is about 20 pounds in 5 weeks.
20 pounds in 5 weeks.
People have dropped their blood sugars by 30%. People are coming off of diabetes medications, or they're cutting them in half. People are feeling better. People say, I just feel my energy levels are so much better than they've been in years. And so I just think that people are overall just feeling more reinvigorated.
You also have spoken out very often in terms of health to the church in particular. So I want to end it there because I see, and I get frustrated with this as a believer. Fortunately, my pastor is actually trained in the medical profession as well, so she's championed this as well. But we tend to not be so healthy sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's, I just think it's tradition, the way our churches have been. Churches are a place of comfort, of warmth. And unhealthy foods tend to be comfortable and welcoming, right? And so, I'm not going to knock the churches too hard, but what I will say is that, churches are so important in so many people's lives in the country. And churches are a great place for people to get ministry. And not just spiritual ministry or financial ministry, but also health ministry. And so I champion and encourage and beckon churches to really be serious about the health of your parishioners, because without health, you have nothing. And so, and a broke body can't serve God.
No,
right?
No.
So I think churches could do a better job. I think that they are. I want to give a shout out to my pastor, Charles Jenkins in Chicago from Fellowship. He's a gospel recording artist, but he and I recorded a video together.
Shred Air, I know.
Yeah. So, Pastor Jenkins isn't the greatest workout buff, as you can see on our video, but, he wants to pastor his congregation and his flock so that they're healthy too, and not just, walking in spirit with him. He wants them to walk in health with him. So
thank you. Thank you so much for answering your call as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me a chance to talk to you.
And be sure to check out Dr. Ian Smith's latest bestseller, And Shred the Sugar. It could literally save your life. Still ahead on Studio 5.
Hey, Mark.
Troubles may come, but don't you worry. Trials may come, but don't worry. Be not dismayed.
We go behind the scenes of the new film, A Question of Faith.
I tried it and I know you will.
God will take care of you.
And welcome back to Studio 5. The countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news continues with number 3. At number 3. Lecrae tops the Studio 5 list of 5 music tours you may want to catch this fall. His All Things Work Together album drops Friday, and the 24-city tour kicks off October 4th. Matthew West begins his 30-city all-in tour this week, September 21st to be exact. Jesus Culture's Kim Walker-Smith begins her On My Side tour, September 25th.
There's a breakthrough in this room.
With the #1 gospel album in the country, Tasha Cobbs Leonard is on tour right now with her Heart, Passion, Pursuit album. And Grammy Award winners Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith are tuning up for Christmas with a full symphony orchestra, touring 22 cities beginning November 11th. At number 2. For King & Country's Luke Smallbone is thanking fans for prayers, sharing on Instagram Saturday. He and his wife had a scare with their 2-month-old. He stopped breathing. Following prayers, CPR, and a trip to the ER, the couple posted a picture with their son 48 hours later, back at home saying, all tests came back clear. Little Leo Oliver Smallbone will undergo skull surgery at some point, but it's unrelated to the breathing episode.
Oh, so priceless.
With that, there is only one more remaining in the countdown. That also brings us to what's new at the box office. This next film stars the likes of Jackie Velasquez, Kim Fields, Gregory Allen Williams, and the list does indeed go on. Here's your first look at A Question of Faith.
What happens when a member loses someone and they need God's word to bring them comfort? Who's going to give it to them? You?
You have one family who's in desperate need of an organ transplant. You have another family who's going to deal with a serious tragedy. You have another family who is the catalyst of the tragedies. So what happens when you have 3 families completely broken who don't know each other? They fall. And in this film, we try to show you how to build you right back up, even in the worst times that God got you. And the reason why we say families discover God's grace, love, and mercy, they each have to go through a journey to understand why these events happen.
Last one. Here we go.
If you believe on the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, call him up and tell him what you want. Can't stop praising his name, I just can't stop praising his name, I just can't stop praising his name, Jesus.
The movie stars Richard T. Jones, Kim Fields, C. Thomas Howell, who plays a man who does have some race issues. Renee O'Connor plays his wife. We have Jackie Velasquez, the Latino singer. We have T.C. Stallings from War Room, and we have Greg Allen Williams, who's currently on Greenleaf.
My character is a pastor turning over his church to his son, and tragedy strikes, and my character becomes the spiritual center for that family.
In playing these spiritual leaders for you, I mean, is that something easy for you to tap into? Is it something you grew up with? What is it?
It's easy because I honor it. I remember those ministers, Bishop Tyndrew and Bishop Goodman, and those folks, and Pastor Crawford. And all of the answers to our good fortunes and our suffering can be found right there in His Word.
When I read the script, I thought it was just such a dynamic story, and the fact that it was faith-friendly, but not, just hitting you over the head with it, and not being shy or soft about very strong issues and topics, and things that just because you're a person of faith doesn't mean that you don't go through a lot of difficult moments in life.
Eric has suffered a traumatic brain injury.
I'm remanding you to the Juvenile Detention Center.
I promise that I will do everything I can to save Michelle.
The only thing me and Teresa have been doing is trusting in the Lord, and look where it's gotten us.
I don't want your promises. I want a second opinion, and that's exactly what I intend on getting.
When I read the script, I thought it was just a phenomenal script. And sets of storylines, and then selfishly speaking, to be able to create, breathe life into a character like Teresa, where she's got a lot of dramatic moments and really challenging issues. I think this film is definitely needed from the standpoint of some of its predecessors like War Room and even years ago Fireproof. We're clearly seeing that people of faith, or people that tap into their spirit, their spirituality, that they want inspiration and they want relatable characters in very real situations and circumstances.
A Question of Faith is in American theaters this week. It begins its run September 28th. Just moments away on Studio 5.
When you left Iran, your dad is the only one who's a Christian.
This young man's emotional journey, escaping Iran and finding his voice. And welcome back to Studio 5. It is now time for number 1 in this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. At number 1.
Houston is a city in crisis and now a city of islands.
As Houston residents continue their long recovery from Hurricane Harvey, Lakewood Church and Joel Osteen Ministries is serving up a much-needed break for families, kicking off its new monthly movie night with a screening of the film The Stray before it hits theaters.
We have a series of films that are coming to Lakewood, and this is the first one. Our hope is that people can get away from the troubles that they're seeing, you know, and really come and just sit back, relax, enjoy an evening of entertainment.
And in the audience at this screening is the filmmaker, Mitch Davis.
So you get to premiere your film here at Lakewood Church in a very timely period where families do need to come together. How do you feel about doing that here?
What they're doing here by focusing on families and films that work for families, to me, is extraordinary.
And that wraps this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. And it brings us to our next guest, Amin Safari. He's an aspiring rap artist. He and his family fled Iran because of Christian persecution. When he made it to the States, he fell in love with rap music in high school and actually used it to learn the English language. He is this week's Studio 5 One to Watch. The voice of A Minor is Amin Safari, an aspiring rap artist. At just 4, Safari and his family fled their home in Iran and moved to Turkey.
What was life like in Turkey?
It was not fun at all. It was very difficult. You know, we were refugee, and we escaped from Iran's government, so the government was looking for us in Turkey, and since later we became Christian, the Turkish, people didn't like Christianity. They still don't, so they would kick us out of the houses, and so that's why we had to move 28 times.
28 times?
Yeah,
you
right.
Moved 28 times.
Yeah, there was many times we had to sleep at parks, Yeah, it was very difficult.
But when you left Iran, your dad is the only one who's a Christian. He became a Christian in jail. When did you come to?
Well, I became Christian when I saw the transformation, because, I saw my dad turn from a criminal to a pastor. So that was it was almost like unbelievable. How can this violent man turn soft? And then I saw my sister get healed when she had like a 99% chance of death. So when I see miracles like that, it's almost impossible to deny God's existence. And then I went to seminars or conferences, camps, and I got more information on it, and I was like, wow, this is the real thing. So how could I not believe that?
Amin left Turkey for America at age 13 and settled in California.
We stayed there for a year and a half, and at the time I didn't speak English at all.
Your story is amazing. I'm really curious, when does the music thing happen for you? When does that connection happen on this journey?
Right, well, the music was kind of random, because when I first came here, I didn't speak English at all, like I said, and then I always had this thought, what am I gonna do? What is my goal? I had no goal, I had no purpose in life. So I would always pray to God, what do you want me to do? So when I finished middle school, when I started high school, God woke me up, and he was like, I want you to do music. And at the time, I didn't know anything about music. I thought music was just a waste of time. I never even listened to music that much, only at church. But yeah, he's told me to do music. I was like, but I don't know anything about music. Why would you want me to do that? He was like, trust me.
Amin says his music is influenced by artists like Eminem, Kanye West, Jay-Z, and Kendrick Lamar.
In my head, I'm like, okay, if God is telling me to do music, then he definitely wants me to do Christian music and gospel and stuff. So I slowly started getting into that, but then again, he told me not to do Christian music, which was very weird to me. He was like, I don't want you to do Christian music because Christian music is for Christians, and he doesn't want me to reach to Christians. He wants me to reach people who aren't Christians. Actually, he wants me to reach everyone.
Amin's debut project, A Minor, is available on iTunes. Be sure to take a listen. Still ahead on Studio 5.
I remember one day I woke up and everybody had gone.
A millionaire gives it all away to care for orphans. We're looking ahead to this story in our next episode. And welcome back to Studio 5. We are just about out of time for this week's show. So let's take a look ahead to what we're working on for you next week. This story is actually going to take you all the way to Kenya.
I became a beggar. I became a street boy. I walked to the city of Nairobi to get a new life.
And you go from being a beggar to a millionaire.
Sometimes it's so hard for me to measure at that level, but I can acknowledge and say, yes, Lord really lifted me so high through His favor, through the small business that I started. I was really tormented by these boys in the street. I saw faces of me, and I could not walk anymore. I cried, why is it that God wanted me to take me back again? I will never, ever work for money again.
And that is just one story from next week's rundown. Certainly hope you'll join us right here in Studio 5 for that. Right now, as for the final word for this show, I want to go back to something we learned at the very beginning. Dr. Ian Smith talked about the fact that sugar can be instantly satisfying on the tongue, but too much of it can leave some lifelong dangers. It reminds me you really need to be careful what you consume, not just in your body, but in your mind and in your heart, because it could indeed have lifelong, lasting effects. That is the final word for this show, and I hope for you it's a good word too. Until next time, reach out and touch me at Ephraim Graham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And then you come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. We'll see you then.